legendary voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Bonesy, thanks for jumping on and being with us. I got 2 words to say about this deal. I want your 2. Here's mine. Holy Mackinac!
No, that's copywritten, and so you owe me $25.
Check's in the mail.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is, Roger. That's great. I'm really, I have not been this excited about deadline moves since 2003. And the Leafs had 103 points, if memory serves correct, and Pat Quinn rolled the dice. He had a veteran group, but he wanted to go for it. And so Owen Nolan, Phil Housley, another defenseman whose name escapes me, and it will come to me, and then the pièce de résistance was the reacquiring of Doug Gilmour. And I don't think I was more excited about a playoff run than that. And then, of course, it all blew up the next night when Doug Gilmour's career ended in Calgary. And that was, Phil Housley. That was the other defense. And it just really, they played well. They got into the playoffs against Philadelphia and lost in Game 7. So and there's no guarantees. There's obviously no guarantee. But the fact that we were going to go for it, that Pat Quinn said we're going for it because of the roster we have at this point. And there was no salary cap, so it was the Leafs could do that. And now with the cap and everything else, both Kyle Dubas and Mr. Pridham have really, really done a marvelous job here. And they're not done. I mean, they still have room left to get a depth defenseman or something like that, and I'm sure that that's very high on their list. But we've always said in the last couple of years when they were eliminated that this team had great skill, they had good character, but they didn't have sandpaper, and they didn't have pushback. And the acquisition of Nicky Foligno will be that and more. I mean, he's been a captain. He's a leader. He's just a tremendous individual in the community. He's like his dad, exactly. I mean, they're clones. And the addition of Mike Foligno in 92-93 was huge. And I think that the addition of Nick Foligno this season is going to be equally as important.
Joe, talk to us a little bit about the family a bit more, because obviously your Sudbury roots and the connection, just the kind of people and character they are. We can talk stats all we want. You've already alluded to the quality of the individual and somebody who's worn the C. I mean, you look at that dressing room. How many guys in the Leafs dressing room now have worn or could wear a C in the National Hockey League? Like, if they don't win this year, Joe, it isn't because of experience or the ability and leadership in the room, but the Foligno family in particular, the Sudbury connection, anybody from that area knows just what they're all about.
Yeah, and I mean, and Nick was born in Buffalo when Michael was there, but grew up in Sudbury, has a beautiful home in Sudbury. They go back to, he and Marcus, every year. It's called the Foligno Compound out on one of the millions of lakes that are in and around Sudbury. But, I mean, he has been so involved in other activities. He has a child that had a great deal of effort, had to try to live, and was in and out of Sick Kids Hospital down in Columbus. He's very much involved in the neonatal things in Sudbury. He's done charity hockey games in the summer that I got to be a part of on a couple of occasions, and even my son David played it. He is obviously a great leader, or he wouldn't have had that C, but he will also understand where he has to be in this dressing room. This isn't a guy that's going to kick in the door and say, hey, I'm here to lead you. He will find his way the same way that Joe Thornton has found his way, and Jason Spezza, all of these older guys, to help with a core that is learning how to do this and haven't made the big step yet, and that is win a round, get deep into a playoff run, and who knows what might happen. So it will be a huge addition to the room, and it will be a huge addition to the on-ice performance, no matter where they decide to put Nick. I mean, he can play up and down the lineup anywhere you want him to, but he is going to provide that kind of on-ice grit and sandpaper that this team has looked for and went out and tried to help with the addition of Wayne Simmons. So I'm very, very excited about this, and I know I may be over the top because I've known the Folignos for so many years, but I can't believe that they are able to do this, and I think this young man's going to be a huge, huge part of a playoff run here for the Maple Leafs.
That's exciting. Joe Bowen, voice of the Leafs, is with us. I'm Roger Lajoie. Nick Foligno on his way to the Maple Leafs. We'll see if there's more trades tomorrow. We have full coverage on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, Hockey Central, between noon and 2. Nick Alberga and Gord Stellick. You know, Joe, you talk about getting guys, quality guys, veterans, guys who have worn C. Here's another thing, too, I look at in situations like this. Everyone says, you know, what you need are guys that, you know, veterans that have won and been great players and won Stanley Cups. Joe, I think even more so than that, though, I love the fact that you've got a room of guys that haven't won the Stanley Cup. Like, you talk about, like, guys who've won, if you've won 3 Stanley Cups, and I'm not, of course, you're always going to compete if you're a veteran player, but imagine the veterans in that room who have not lifted that cup now. That's what you want, I think, even more than guys that have punched through on it. And I think that's another reason to be excited about this current group of Leafs.
Well, when I phoned Nick, when I found out about this, the first thing he said on the phone to me was, let's go win a blankety-blank cup. And I thought, you know what? That's exactly what his dad would have said, and I agree with you. It's one thing to have won it, and you understand what has to go through in order to win it. But when you have that burning desire because you haven't won it, I think that's as important an aspect of it. They've had, obviously, the Columbus Blue Jackets under Foligno's captaincy have had pretty good success the last couple of years, eliminating Tampa and eliminating the Maple Leafs. So they've had a taste, and a taste is just what it is. It's not the whole pie. It's just a nice little taste off, from your thumb. And so now here we have to find out what these guys can do and what they are prepared to do through a playoff run. And certainly the way that this team has played throughout the course of this season, except for a bit of a lull at one point, has been very optimistic as far as what they can do against the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, because they'll know them extraordinarily well, and then you just never know.
No, you never know, indeed, and you got to like it. Another factor, too, Joe, you know, people weighing in terms of the price. Hey, listen, nobody who's watched hockey and understands the game understands that, hey, a first-round pick, 2 fourths, you're giving up potential assets. But we've already discussed this team is thinking is there. And, Joe, you know, kind of forgotten every once in a while because sometimes, you know, the standings change. The Toronto Maple Leafs moved into first place overall in the National Hockey League in points last night. So if that stayed the way, and it may not, but if it does, it's the 30th overall pick. So when you hear first-round pick, you know, you start thinking of Connor McDavid. And I'm not saying you can't get a great player with the number 30 overall. But, Joe, there is a world of difference between a number 30 pick and a lottery pick, right?
And this year, without very many junior games being played, it is a bigger crapshoot this year than in the history of the draft. Everybody is going to have to go on what happened a year ago. And that is that's a dangerous thing. People grow, people mature, have great seasons, fall off, injuries, whatever. And now you're not being able to really judge the draft the way that you have in past years. And that's why I think this year is, if you're going to wager some of your future, then this is probably as good a year to do it as any because of those circumstances.
Agreed, too. And, yeah, the compounding draft issue is another thing. Joe, last night, 6-5 against Ottawa. For whatever reason, they seem to have difficulty against the Senators, but they...
Thank God you don't play them in the playoffs.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, the Senators got to make the playoffs for that to happen, and that's not going to happen, but you're absolutely right about that. But I got to ask you about Jack Campbell and the 11 straight wins now and all he's brought to this team. I mean, Joe, you talk about stories that kind of write themselves. Jack Campbell is certainly one, and what he's accomplishing here.
Well, I mean, he was drafted very high for a very good reason. I mean, he was a talented young goaltender that really lost his way a little bit, I guess, with Dallas, and then set off to Los Angeles. But like most goalies, so much is between your ears. Everybody has the same physical tools, but it is what is between your ears and how you handle different situations, how you handle pressure, and sometimes it takes goaltenders longer. And Jack Campbell has done that, and he has seized an opportunity here that is really quite beneficial to him, and he's done the most of it. I mean, he's really taken it and run with it, and the players love him, and that's a huge part. Not that they don't that they dislike Frederik Andersen by any stretch of the imagination, but their personalities are quite different. Frederik is very quiet and intrusive, and Jack is very outgoing and vocal. So having said that, he understands that this is a wonderful opportunity for him, not only for this year, but going forward. And the Leafs understand that as well. So you can't have too much depth in the playoffs. And it starts in goal. And with Michael Hutchinson, even as the third, I think they're in great shape for that. And Frederik will be back, and they'll have two guys that they can lean on and not have to overplay one, hoping that they can carry the deal. So it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. But having said that, Jack Campbell has really lifted this team when it needed to have it lifted from the back end.
Sure did, and it's an exciting day. Foligno added to the mix. We'll see if the Leafs do anything between now and tomorrow's trade deadline as well, but a blockbuster and a big addition here today. Legendary voice
How about we get after Mr. Manson from Anaheim?
Oh, just bring in everybody. Come on, Joe.
Yeah, no. There's some more sandpaper and depth on defense. That might be just a thought.
Yeah, it's a good one, and not only that, Joe. But we talk about the sandpaper. Is like the sandpaper question is over now. I look at this group. This group is a very different group than was in the playoffs last year. There was no Thornton. There was no Simmons. There was no Foligno. Overall, this team's much grittier than that team that played against Columbus last year, and they got their captain to boot.
Yeah, I think you're right.